But at the same time, when you have a big hit record, and that was nearly the Christmas #1, we did like 500,000 singles. In the
What kept it off the one?
Fucking Jackson. Fucking horrible sex offender. I still cannot hear the opening bars to Earth Song of Michael Jackson to this day without wanting to go on a kill crazy rampage.
Yes, yeah. Yeah.
But then again, most people feel that way.
Yeah. So, and what are you most proud of that you signed in your time there?
We Mogwai, we didn't know. I mean, this is how bad an A&R guy I was. I turned down Muse and Coldplay, but I thought Mogwai would be bigger than Pink fucking Floyd.
But they're still making records.
But
And doing a soundtrack.
sadly, so are Muse and Coldplay.
Yeah. So, just going back from the story a little bit, just to talk about our connection a little bit. Long before we met each other, me and Elbow were trying to get a record deal around the time that you're writing about. In fact, exactly the time that you're writing about. And anyone who was in a band at that time in this country, and there's a few people in this room that I can see already. Al Peter's here from Elbow, and yeah, there's a bunch of musicians I can see here. We kind of suspected the sort of, we knew the cocaine sort of expense account thing. We knew that was real, but you didn't get to see behind the simmering tensions, the interplay between different A&R men, the competition and stuff. Because to us, everybody came with smiling faces and, you know, did all the chuckling in small rooms out of the way and stuff. When I asked earlier if it was any kind of exorcism and stuff, you came to the music business being a music lover, which is how I met you, which is why we ended up being friends. Just very quickly to go off the film, I wanted your personal opinion on what's happened to music in the last few years. Do you think, looking in, that the industry has any less awful human beings in it? Do you think that because there's less money in music, do you think it's a bit more of a kinder place to musicians?
It's a really good question. I think it's an interesting time, and I think what's happened in an industry sense is, when I was there in the 90s, there was so much cash in the music business that you could be a kind of buffoon who just could say the right things. You could fart about for 10 years earning 80 or 100 grand a year and not actually doing anything. I think that's all been axed now. You can't get away with that anymore. There's kind of a lot of junior people earning not very much, and there's a few kind of very specific people earning a fortune. That kind of middle ground has gone. And when the internet, what we're talking about here is the post-internet record industry. I mean, we just had no idea. Christian Tattersfield, who's managing director at Warner Bros. For a long time, who I sort of worked with during the time we were presenting the film, he said to me later, he goes, yeah, you know what we should have got faster was that for a lot of people, free is a pretty big fucking incentive. You know, we've been selling CDs for 14, 15 pounds that cost 50 pence to manufacture, and then surprise, people went, "What? Free?
Yeah.
Fuck you."
I do remember a record company executive at one of the first companies that Elbow was signed to saying, "It's very impressive, but the internet is just going to be a good marketing tool."
Yeah, that was, I heard that so many times. Yeah. That. Well, I'll tell the story in brief. We had guys in 1995 come in to see us at London Records, and they wanted us to invest in the internet, and they said, you know, in the future, the Americans, they kind of said, in the future, you know, it's going to change everything. You know, kids are going to buy music on their computers, and they'll be doing it on planes and on trains and cafes, and we go, well, where are the wires going to go? Where will you plug it in? And the guy's going, there won't be any wires. I'm going, that's mental. And then we went, but how will they? And I went, how will they get the music? Will the CD come out your computer? And he goes, no. He's going, no, there won't be any CD. Just be on. We go, but the artwork, will that come out your printer and then you build it yourself and you've got the? And he's going, no, there won't be any CD. And we went, this guy. We kicked him out of the office thinking these fuckers are insane. Yeah. It turned out the company they were setting up was called Yahoo. Much later on, over redundancy drinks, we figured out that if we'd invested the £50,000 we spent making the second menswear album in Yahoo, we'd all be billionaires. So Now, when my son Robin, who's here today, sort of says to me, you know, Dad, didn't you make a pile in the sort of the gold rush of the internet, the the biggest boom time of technology and cash the world will ever see? I was the guy in the corner with sort of dunce's hat on, with a bit of straw, trying to catch a ball in a cup. So.
Right, so getting the book into a film, let's talk about the sort of some of the technical and personal matters you must have encountered. A very solitary pursuit, writing a book. Then you are looking around for people to invest in it and to make it into a movie and having to share it with so many people. And I know from talking to you during this process that keeping it as hard as you possibly could, keeping the film as difficult as you possibly could to make him that absolutely inexcusable human being was very, very difficult, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, you've managed to make it blood-curdlingly shocking. Like how Hitchcock must have felt when you were stood out there, listening to everybody in here going, "Oh my God!" at the end of the film.
No, I came in right at the end, and it's always great when he's chopping up Rebecca, and you're like, oh, no, you bastard! But also the sort of laughter, because it's
really uncomfortable.
Yeah. You should have heard them in Toronto.
What do you mean?
They were like, the howls of outrage. but then you'd hear about 10 people when he says the line about, a copper on ketamine dismembering a cop. Fucking on. So you could hear people laughing. So it's quite a PC culture, the Toronto Film Festival.
Right.
You're up against the Lobster. It's all.
Right.
So, yes.
So passing it out, getting it made. What were the most difficult things? What was the toughest time?
To be honest, I was protected because we had such brilliant producers in the film, Gregor Cameron and Will Clark, who just protected me from all the compromises we were asked to make. We were asked so many times, if he gets his comeuppance at the end, we'll make the movie. We were asked, if you show a scene where we find out why he's this twisted and terrible, we'll make the movie. It's what David Mammy calls that "when my kitten died when I was 10" scene. So you hear this terrible guy, but then he's oh, my kitten died when I was 10, that's why I killed all these people. Like, oh yeah, go ahead, go nuts. And I was just like, no, we're not going to do any of that. And they protected me all the way. And I mean, in developing the movie, some of the mental shit you hear, at one point apparently, they didn't tell me any of this until we were in production, but there was an American financing entity who would have made the movie if either A, we set it in the hip-hop community in LA and everyone was black and it was all urban music, but basically the same story. And I went, I don't know anything about that. I don't know how you do that. Or B, if we got Hugh Grant to play Stealth Fox. Hugh Grant, who at this point was 55, playing the 26-year-old Steven Stealth Fox, as Greg on the producer said, 4 grams in a funeral.